Good evening, and welcome to our continuing series, Explorations in Savitri, with our brother Alok. Namaste. Today we begin a new canto, Canto 12, The Heavens of the Ideal, in Book 2, the Book of the Traveler of the Worlds. The page number is 277.
So, before we begin, one thing is very clear that Aurobindo is not speaking of our plane of consciousness here, because it is heavens. So, it is not like from intuitive mind he is leaping to our mind, and there is a good reason for that. In this canto, we'll see he is as if summarizing and giving us an overview of all the greater mind worlds which are heavens in their own right, like there are heavens of the vital world. Similarly, there are heavens of the ideal mentality which is formed by the rays of the supramental sun. And in human beings, it is reflected in the form of search for ideal happiness, flawless happiness, ideal truth. That's how this gets reflected. And second thing, very beautiful in this canto is he is showing us two routes. So right now, Ashapati has gone through the mind, one step further. So that's the route which, as we know, Aurobindo took in his journey. And if you go through the life divine, he says you reach a point when even through that you will end up discovering your psychic being. Or you can go through this route. It's another route, shorter route, compressed route. And very interestingly, it's a route which is full of delight, as the Gita. Gita also speaks about these two routes. One is, of course, it puts it like those who do the yoga by their own effort. Primarily going through the mind is largely your own effort. And the other is, it says, those who take the path of bhakti and surrender. And ultimately, they both reach me. But the difference is when you take the path of bhakti, you go through joy and all the time they feel my presence. So this is what we are going to see here. So our mind is still far. But this is where he will indicate that that's where it will reach us to a point where it will show us that's where it is. So Canto 12, the heavens of the ideal. It's not a heaven, but heavens. And he describes as so many layers. Always the ideal beckoned from afar. So in the very opening line, it's so beautiful. We always think that we are the doers and we live under this illusion that, I am idealist. Of course, the idealism of human nature is very different from the ideal state. So, but we don't realize we are being called and drawn. It's the same way that he who has chosen the infinite has been chosen by the infinite. So that's the beauty and that's the grace that one day everyone will awaken to it. That's here it comes. Awakened by the touch of the unseen. Often in Aurobindo's lines we see such very interesting paradoxes. Touch of the unseen. Something which is very palpable and yet you don't see that touch. Deserting the boundary of things achieved, aspired the strong discoverer, tireless thought, revealing at each step a luminous world. So, thought through which Ashapati has climbed, and it is not wanting to halt because it's being drawn upward towards something greater, fuller, vaster. As I said, Aurobindo in one of his letters says, our forefathers swam through a sea of thought. So this thought is tireless. It's not ready to stop. It can stop for a while, but not forever, because it has a tendency to search for a greater truth. It's the very nature. At one place he says it's the nature of the mind to search for greater and greater truth. It left known summits for the unknown peaks. That's what is required in yoga, to be ready to renounce the gains of the present for what the future may hold. I keep reminding this to all of us actually, And it's most dangerous when people give talks, because they may live under the illusion that they have reached a point and therefore. But the beauty is, if you remember, that it is always infinite, and it at one point is very humbling an experience. We are on page 277. It's a very humbling experience. On the other hand, it's a very, it gives us the sense of progress and youthfulness. Impassioned, it sought the lone, unrealized truth. It longed for the light that knows not death and birth. That's what we are seeking. Each stage of the soul's remote ascent was built into a constant heaven, felt always here. So one advantage of this heaven is that it's a beautiful place, full of joy, full of light. But the other part is the disadvantage. We may stop at any of these midway worlds, as has happened, whether in saints or various kinds of, any place we can stop. And Aurobindo is reminding us, our journey should go on till we reach that light which is shadowless, that knows not death nor birth.
Yes.
And another place he says, our journey cannot cease till we discover that in which world and self grow true and one. So these are the indicators. And even then, who knows, there is no end. That too he says.
Oh, there is no end, and or
because
none
there is
can
a
yet
constant
be seen.
unfolding. The difference
Yes.
is, right now the unfolding is in ignorance and hence error and pain, and otherwise the unfolding is a matter of
Yes.
delight. At each pace of the journey marvelous, a new degree of wonder and of bliss, a new rung formed in being's mighty stair, a great white step trembling with jeweled fire, as if a burning spirit quivered there, upholding with its flame the immortal hope. So it is not just a description, but an actual experience that the fire keeps on increasing. With that, the light, the consciousness, the awareness, the knowledge, the power, the bliss, everything keeps on increasing as we climb through the stair. And now comes some very beautiful line.
Yes.
As if a radiant God had given his soul that he might feel the tread of pilgrim feet, mounting in haste to the Eternal's house. It reminds me of many things. One is that it is not just the devotee who takes delight in the divine. Aurobindo says that the divine also takes delight in the devotee. Second is that each step we take toward the eternal, actually the eternal begins to accompany us. There is a very nice ancient saying that when you go to a pilgrimage, every step you take towards the pilgrim spot is like a yagna. It's a very beautiful way of putting it. Which means that the journey, actual contact with Mother's presence starts the moment we start. Probably with thought of coming, we booked the ticket, and this is a grand culmination. I am speaking now physically, when you are actually here, but actually the divine is carrying us throughout. And it is so true of so many people's experience. I know people who wrote to Mother and, I want to come. Chotnarayanji, he actually heard a voice, and the deathless rose will come there. He heard a voice, go to the mother of Pondicherry. And he got lost. Where is Pondicherry? No Google search. Where is Pondicherry? And who is mother of Pondicherry? Write to the mother of Pondicherry. So he writes, he found out he wrote to mother of Pondicherry. And he says, the day I wrote, even before the letter has reached, obviously, he says he started seeing a rose in front of his eyes, which carried on for the next 15 days, after which he received a very beautiful reply. And part of the reply is there in Collected Works, that basically it is like that whatever else may fail us in life, but the divine never fails us. And he is the friend who always holds us through the journey. It's that because he had asked for a word that could give him hope during the times that he was going through. It was an intense crisis. And mother sent a message. Nolnida wrote on behalf of the mother, here is a word of hope for all those who look for it in times such as these. And then mother's message was printed there, that he is the friend who never fails. Have faith and he will do everything for you. That's how it ends. Have faith and he will do everything for you. So he says it was like a tonic. And then of course he asked, can I come to Pondicherry? And again he started experiencing that. And he had no ticket, nothing. He didn't know what to do those days, because he was not getting leave till the last day. And reply has come. Mother says, come. That's it. So he is not getting leave. So he doesn't know how he will go. He doesn't have money.
Yes.
Everything gets arranged the last day. Suddenly, for some inexplicable reason, or explicable reason, the leave is sanctioned. Someone comes and gives him some money for whatever purposes, and then he has everything with him, and he comes all the way to Pondicherry. Now you see, the divine accompanies us from the beginning. So when it is said that, as if the soul of a God had given himself to feel the tread of pilgrim feet. Such a marvelous line.
There's a beautiful story in the West of the man who was walking in the desert. And there are two sets of footprints.
Yes.
And then suddenly there's only one. And he asked the Lord, you have left me?
And those were my moments of crisis.
Yes. And the Lord says, no, that's when I was carrying you.
That's right. It's so true. Now comes, you see, this is the interesting part. At either end of each effulgent stair, the heavens of the ideal mind were seen. So it seems that there are two sides to this stair, and you see the heavens of the ideal mind. In a blue lucency of dreaming space, like strips of brilliant sky clinging to the moon. Moon is always a symbol of spiritual mind, which is the ideal mentality, the realms beyond the human mind and the supramental. We have reflected these worlds where the moon is the symbol of that. And this is how he is climbing. On one side glimmered you on floating you, a glory of sunrise breaking on the soul, in a tremulous rapture of the heart's insight, and the spontaneous bliss that beauty gives, the lovely kingdoms of the deathless rose. So this is the rose. Rose is symbol of love and divine love for the divine.
Yes.
So this is the thing which is immortal, the power within our heart, the deathless rose, the kingdom of love for the divine, and the beauty and the joy that one feels. So this is the path. So right now he is describing on one side. On one side it opens through the heart. And how does it open? There is a growth of insight upon insight, an intuition that comes from the heart. There is joy growing upon joy. There is beauty growing upon beauty. And there is love for the divine growing upon love for the divine.
Mother says too that there is one rose, love from the divine.
Yes. And there is also one which Mother said it's not found on earth normally. It's not found in heaven. And she really appreciated it, tenderness for the divine.
Yes.
Tender love for the divine. And she says, because we are always wanting, we never feel that how much divine must be. Every time I read Aurobindo, I end up feeling what a compassion. He is leaned down, wanting to transform this earth, and the Divine Mother, how they must have felt and experienced life. How we feel when we look around and see, very insensitive humanity sometimes, what they would have felt.
Yes.
And yet they came, lived like us, indulged with us, with all our stupidities. Chotnarayanji again, he once told me, he said, I asked him, how do you summarize the essence of, he had so many contacts with Mother, Aurobindo, Darshan and all these things. He says, we were fools sometimes, I feel. The Divine Mother is there and she could give us anything, and we kept approaching her with our little problems. My office person and my somebody who is denying me promotion and somebody who is and she would listen and she would grant also. He says, sometimes I feel how much time we wasted on the way.
Yes.
So that's that's why she has to withdraw, so that we can really approach her through this. A glory of sunrise breaking on the soul. Above the spirit cased in mortal sense are superconscious realms of heavenly peace. Below the inconscience, sullen, dim abyss. So spirit cased in mortal sense is what we are, and beyond it there are superconscious realms of peace and beatitude and joy, and below are the inconscient abyss. And now comes another hint. Behind our life, the deathless rose. What really bridges? It is love. From the divine side, it is the divine love leaning into the abyss, which becomes in our consciousness love for the divine. That's the only thing. So it is between, it is bridging the realm. And it is also behind, deep behind the psychic center. It is the deathless rose. It cannot die, it cannot fade. So this is our permanent punji, sampatti. All else will change. Not can change, will change. But what is not going to change is the love for the divine that we have, gathered by the grace of the divine. Because really one cannot have bhakti without grace. This is what, if you ask me, I have seen it's just not possible. It's a rare grace. Across the covert air the spirit breathes, a body of the cosmic beauty and joy, unseen, unguessed by the blind suffering world. Climbing from nature's deep surrendered heart, it blooms forever at the feet of God. So there is this the mortal nature caught up in this appearances cannot even understand, cannot fathom, cannot imagine. There is such a joy inside which we carry all the while, and it blooms. And where is it found? Where nature in her depths, deep surrendered heart, has given itself to the Lord, to the beloved. So this is what is going on inside, fed by life's sacrificial mysteries. So on the surface is our life caught up in all kinds of things, joy and sorrow, good and bad, and etc., etc. It blooms forever at the feet of God, fed by life's sacrificial mysteries. So how does it bloom? It blooms by the law of sacrifice. But human beings don't consciously engage in sacrifice. They are sacrificing to all the, this is the lesson of life. We give our life for whom? For husband, wife, parent, children, friend. At the end of it, the result is a zero. We may imagine there is one added to the zero. But if only we could offer our life at the feet of the divine, how beautiful it would be. Nevertheless, unknown to us, this sacrifice is going on. This is a great truth of the Gita. Who is sacrificing? Nature. Sacrificial mysteries. So all that we experience on the surfaces of life, all that makes us happy, all that makes us cry, all that makes us fretful, all that makes us feel transiently joyous, all that we regard as success and regard as failure, all that goes deep within. And what does nature do? It just picks it up and offers it at the feet of God. And as it offers at the feet of God, this beautiful deathless rose blooms. This is what happens within our nature. Only for a long time it is not known to us. Here too its bud is born in human breast. Now it's very, very clear it's about the psychic. Its bud is there in the human breast. Then by a touch, a presence or a voice, the world is turned into a temple ground and all discloses the unknown beloved. What is the psychic state? It's not about vision and voices. What happens then? Wherever you go, you begin to see the face of the one beloved. Here, there, in this person, that person, in dogs and cats, in stars and sun and moon, and even the most things, evil, things terrible, masks. There is a line in Savitri toward the end where among the boon, one of the boons that is given to Savitri, my fiercest masks shall thy greatest attractions bring. They will attract you because they are also my mask. So, divine is like that. So, as it grows inside, then this bud begins to, the whole universe becomes the temple ground. So, the sign of the psychic awakening is one of the signs that wherever we are, that becomes a temple space. As long as we need to limit ourselves to a temple. Temple is all right, it helps to feed. But if we limit the divine to a temple or to a space, that means we are very far from experiencing the psychic. I am saying this particularly in this context. Sometimes I hear people say, I have heard, 50 years I have not gone out of the ashram. So my take is that that means you are still to realize the psychic state. If you have realized it, if it is needed for your work, you will be able to go out without any disturbance here. It's a sign, because then the whole world is a temple ground. Exactly. Wherever you go, you will experience the divine carrying you. And if you are here, yes, for the work. But if for the work you have to go to hell, you will go. Why won't you? Why should you,
Exactly.
say, I just want all the joy for myself? It's a selfish state. Divine may send you in the dungeon to work. But the joy is that, you are at the service of the divine. So I'll read these 4 lines, beautiful lines of the psychic blossoming, which is there as a bud of bhakti inside. And when it blossoms, what happens? Here too, its bud is born in human breast. So there is nature worshipping the Lord in a deep psychic mood. And what's happening here? Something of that is also present here. Here too, its bud is born in human breast. Then by a touch, how does one get initiated? Sometimes a touch. I know people who just went to someone's home, there was mother's picture there. Eyes. And they looked at her eyes and something happened. And then they, who are these eyes? They just couldn't take their eyes off her eyes. And then slowly their journey began, and the rest is history. By a touch, a presence, or a voice. Presence is not something which is seen, it is felt. There is a presence, you enter into that atmosphere. And something which is heard, a voice, mother's voice or a voice of initiation. The world is turned into a temple ground, and all discloses the unknown beloved. He is the one whom we really love, just that we don't know. But He is all the time calling us and pouring His love upon us. In an outburst of heavenly joy and ease, life yields to the divinity within and gives the rapture offering of its all, and the soul opens to felicity. What happens then? What is the psychic condition and the psychic process of going there? We've already seen step by step through another route, Ashpati. But look at the shortcut. Then what happens? You stop thinking, calculating what divine has given me, what I have got. You are only looking at what you have not yet given to the divine. And then it ends up when? Till each breath, each heartbeat can be given to the divine. Each moment can be given to the divine. So that's your only concern. That could I give my entire life? And it's so easy, then life becomes so beautiful anyways. Because your only urge is how much more I can give myself, and how much I have held behind, hidden in wraps, in clothes, in coverings, giving it beautiful names and beautiful masks. So look at these lines, in an outburst. So, when this begins to blossom and we touch this door, then there is an outburst of heavenly joy and ease. Life yields to the divinity within. It's a complete transformative change. If you look at people whose life before the psychic touch and what happens after that, it really undergoes a sea change. And gives the rapture offering of its all, and the soul opens to felicity. A bliss is felt that never can wholly cease. It's so true. Somewhere it remains. How much ever the suffering, the pain, to abide in the psychic means you will experience it on the surface and always behind it is there. Perhaps it just needed a moment of concentration. Sometimes it can make people feel that you are insensitive because you are rejoicing inside to a very different dimension altogether. So it's right there, this contact and the joy. A bliss is felt that never can wholly cease. A sudden mystery of secret grace. Flowers goldening our earth of red desire. Flowers are powers of the psychic qualities. So otherwise it's all red desire. And suddenly we see that on that ground there are blossoms. What is happening? Such beautiful impulses, sublime psychic urges, the urge to give, the urge to progress, the enthusiasm to do mother's work, the divine work, to live for the sake of the divine. Qualities such as compassion, kindness, etc., they just begin to blossom. Someone asked this to Aurobindo, that in every yoga you have niyam and yama and niyama. So, why Aurobindo has not given these things in this yoga? Won't it mislead? Sometimes people may do anything and pass it under that. So, actually Aurobindo answered it so beautifully. He says, yes, it is not there in this yoga because this has to come from within by a psychic awakening. When the psychic awakens, it will build in us those elements. Spontaneous. He is giving us the master button. Not those, do this, don't do this by the mind or putting things in a bracket, moral nature. In any activity, even what may seem very, very strange to the norms of society, there may yet be the psychic touch. That's the beauty. That other day I was watching this, there was this song. So one of my favorites, so I just ended up watching this. This song is, they were showing actually life of Swami Vivekananda. So, when he went to this famous king of Varanasi's place before he went to US, see how the divine prepares. Now he is going to go to US. So he needs money, but more importantly, he has to be in the perfect state. He is going to US where he is going to meet all kinds of people. Now king is a king. So in honor of Swami Vivekananda, he holds a dance party. And there is this courtesan who comes and wants to dance. Now Swamiji by then is a sannyasi, What? A dancer? He gets up and begins to walk. This is a real story. So this lady starts singing a bhajan. And the bhajan is, Prabhuji, I feel like weeping. Prabhuji, more avgun chitana dharo. It is Surdas ka bhajan. He says that, please don't take into cognizance my negativities, my bad qualities. Prabhuji, more avgun chitana dharo. Samdarshi hai naam tiharo. Aren't you an equal visioned God? So why are you holding these things for me? Your touch should redeem me. I have come here to receive your touch so that I can be redeemed.
Yes.
Vivekananda, that's the difference. That's the difference between a truly awakened person and somebody who is a mentally moralistic person. Vivekananda is an awakened being, though he has taken the path of the mind, unlike the heart path. And Sri Ramakrishna told this in one of the meetings when somebody asked Sri Ramakrishna, what is the difference, between Narendra and others? He said, Narendra, see, he gives an example. If you ask Narendra, who are you? So he will, like a towering personality, stand up and say, I am that. I am Brahman. And he would be right. And if you ask another, there was, I'm forgetting the name, Bhakta, if you remember the name, very famous disciple, Antarang Sishya. I think it was Rakhal, but what was his name as a disciple, I don't remember. And he said, if you ask Rakhal, he will say, I am nothing, I am nothing, I am nothing, Lord, you are all. And both will be right and both are at the same state of realization. Yeah. So Swami Vivekananda, when he hears this, he is immediately moved. He comes and touches the feet of the dancer and says, Mother, you have taught me something. You are my Guru. This is the inner state of an awakened person. Mother, you have taught me something, you are my Guru. Now you see, this experience coming before going to US. is so important. You are going to go to the world taking this light, and if you still have these walls and these thoughts and ideas, and how are you going to carry this light? So the barriers are broken, and then you discover the grace, the secret grace in everything. As the mother says, whatever happens to you, take it as a grace. Then it will indeed become a grace. It is a grace, we don't realize it. All the high gods who hid their visages from the soiled, passionate ritual of our hopes reveal their names and their undying powers. How do they reveal? Of course, they may reveal in vision, but more importantly, as the growth of the qualities. They had hid their visages from the soiled, passionate hopes. Ganpati Bappa, please make my son pass. So Ganpati says, my God, another terrible human being. Somebody comes, picks up a coconut and breaks it. So poor Ganpati has to, Shiva will go in trance. He won't care. You go, throw your passionate hopes, go away. He is ever the same. Krishna will probably feel amused. What does Ganpati do? He has to say, where am I? Maybe you start dancing on the man's head and break it like the coconut. I am going to break your head like the coconut. I had this little conversation with Ganpati in Pune on a scooter, and in front of me was this procession going, all drunk people dancing. And as I looked at Ganpati, I have to actually go past. So for a moment I just told him, I am sorry, but I pity your state. I can understand. I felt that almost a connection that, look, you stay. I said, I have to rush to hospital. I am sorry. I can't give company, but I really pity you. You can't run away. So you called for it with all your bhaktas. So it was a very beautiful connection. And then it's a inner, they disclose. I have never stepped inside the Ganpati temple, but whenever I pass by, it's like a hi, hello. He's there as mother's child. What is there? You don't. But normally, what do we go there for? For asking, passionate, soiled. Look at it. Hopes. So God hides his visage. Look at the beauty of these lines. He hides himself. Outwardly, you see him. But whom does he disclose his powers? To somebody who is inwardly awakened and opened. Look at the beauty of these lines. All the high gods who hid their visages from the veiled, from the soiled, passionate ritual of our hopes. Ritual. If I do this, I will get this. If I break one coconut, I will get this. If I offer my Kesh Mundan, Tirupati Lord will bless me with crores of money or whatever. This is our soiled, passionate hopes. So God also hides himself. Reveal their names and their undying power. They will come and say, oh, hello, how are you? We are brothers and sisters. If fiery stillness wakes the slumbering cells, a passion of the flesh becoming spirit. That's what happened to Meera. So much lost in a reverie of the Krishna that she became Krishnamay. She couldn't see anything else. So she would say, Main Saavre ke rang rachi. The very cells. What I want, I just long for your company, your touch, your bliss. So this is the state of the Bhakta who is moving in ecstasy through the kingdoms, but from the heart center. This is the difference. He is not bothered what are these worlds and what are their powers. They begin to come and give. And marvelously is fulfilled at last the miracle for which our life was made. That's why it is called as the shortcut. A flame in a white, voiceless cupola is seen, and faces of immortal light. The radiant limbs that know not birth and death. The breasts that suckle the firstborn of the sun. The wings that crowd thought's ardent silences. The eyes that look into spiritual space. This also a description of the Divine Mother. Look at how Aurobindo, how will such a being have a vision or see the Divine Mother? Look at this. There are first the gods. A flame in a white, voiceless cupola is seen, and faces of immortal light. So you are in the company of the gods. Then whom do you see? The radiant limbs that know not birth and death, the breasts that suckle the firstborn of the sun. This is Aditi. But look how Sri Aurobindo is putting it. Nowhere we find this expression. Aditi is mother of the gods. How is he putting it? That the firstborn of the sun, Aditya, and they are suckling from the divine mother's breast. That means they receive all the knowledge from there. Even the yogin can, or rather the bhakta can arrive at this in book 1, Canto 3. Sri Aurobindo, when he describes the whole journey, then he says, he has drunk from the breasts of the mother of the worlds.
Yes.
And then what happens? A topless supernature fills into his frame. He has drunk from the breasts of the mother of the worlds, the knowledge which comes from her. So these Adityas who have drunk from her breast, he is face to face with the divine mother in this way. The wings that crowd thought's ardent silences, the eyes that look into spiritual space. The Sphinx who guards the mystery of the sun. The wings, at one place Sri Aurobindo speaks of that, and mother was known as Sphinx. There are many interpretations of the Sphinx. One of them is that she is the one who guards the divine mystery which is behind. So she has wings, and if you look at her face, watching over expanse of desert into silence. The wings that are, surrounding our hidden centers of celestial force. Kundalini becomes natural. No forced awakening. Our hidden centers of celestial force open like flowers to a heavenly atmosphere. See, now in Mother's Yoga, we'll see this comes first. The psychic. So there is a long description of the psychic route, awakening of the centers. Then she takes into that other route, beyond the mind. In Sri Aurobindo's yoga, it is the other way around. And that's why many people may or may not be aware that Sri Aurobindo did not use the word psychic for a long time. It's the mother who introduced this term, which came from Theon's tradition. Otherwise, the word psychic, Sri Aurobindo would use the word Jivatma, Atma. Of course, he had the experience, but she came, and that's where the very fine details came from there, because that was the route she had taken. So if you read Prayers and Meditation, it's nothing else but the joy of psychic discovery. And that's why Prayers and Meditation is a very complimentary book to Savitri. Someone was asking me today, okay, 2 books if you recommend, yesterday. I said, undoubtedly Prayers and Meditation and Savitri. This is my 2 favorite. And these 2 books are just, amazing. The eyes that look into spiritual space, our hidden centers of celestial force open like flowers to a heavenly atmosphere. Mind pauses thrilled with the supernal ray. So when she was asked how to silent the mind, if you read Sri Aurobindo's letters, he will tell you, you go up, you watch and all that, When mother was asked this question, he says, go deep into your heart and the mind will fall silent. What will he say when the Divine Mother is present? She has given this method to go deep into the heart. So you see, mind pauses. Why does it pause? It is thrilled with the supernal ray. And even this transient body then can feel ideal love and flawless happiness and laughter of the heart's sweetness and delight. Freed from the rude and tragic hold of time and beauty and the rhythmic feet of the hours. So this is one door to freedom. If there is a royal road, this is the royal road. You see, Sri Aurobindo has compressed the whole journey now, but from a different vantage point, that the mind pauses, you experience the ideal love, flawless happiness, all the centers open, and even in the rude and tragic hours of time, you still have access to this, and there is a sweetness and delight and laughter which fills the heart. We'll read these few lines and stop here. Our hidden centers of celestial force open like flowers to a heavenly atmosphere. Mind pauses thrilled with the supernal ray, And even this transient body then can feel ideal love and flawless happiness. And when this light comes, the mind has no choice but to become quiet. It discovers all its so called scholarly academic understanding was nothing but opinions, viewpoint, that's all. And laughter of the heart, sweetness and delight. This is what we begin to feel and experience, freed from the rude and tragic hold of time. And beauty and the rhythmic feet of the hours, this in high realms touches immortal kind. It's not easy to get this. Even the gods don't get it. In the highest realm they may get some glimpse, but we have access to it. That's the beauty of man. Look at this line. This in high realms touches immortal kind. Who are the immortal kind? The gods. Even they can't experience this ideal love, flawless happiness. And last line, what here is in the bud has blossomed there.
Yes.
So we'll pause here and continue on this delightful journey on Sunday.
Sunday.